Drinks, food, art, fun. This is Hops and Spirits Kentucky.
We're officially wrapping up 2022, heading toward the holiday seasons. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, no matter what you're celebrating, how you're celebrating. Hopefully it's with good friends, good family, good drinks, good food, and you're having a good time. We got a great episode for you to wrap it up this year here on Hops and Spirits Kentucky. We have a flight night with Log Still Distillery. And but before that, let's get to some news and notes to close out the new year, as there's plenty going on. After debuting their plans over a year ago, Gallant Fox Brewing will open its new Mount Washington production brewery and tap room located at 155 North Bardstown Road this week. Beer and spirits will be available through the end of the year with expanded hours and kitchen operations beginning in January 2023. First opened in 2020, named after the 1930 Triple Crown winner, Gallant Fox Brewing opened up its first location in an original tap room in Louisville's Clifton neighborhood. That location will stay open, and it will also undergo a little bit of renovations as well. So a lot to look forward there in the beer world. In the bourbon world, earlier this month, Kentucky Bourbon Distillers Ltd., doing business as Willett Distillery, announced it will invest nearly $93 million in Washington County to support projects that include the construction of a new distillery operation, barrel storage warehouses, and a water storage area for fire prevention. The project, located in Springfield, will see the construction of a 70,000 square foot facility on 150 acres. Construction is expected to begin next month. Willett Distillery was founded in 1936 and is a family-owned and operated distillery in Nelson County. And in release news, bourbon release news, Old Forester this past week announced the release of its latest edition in its 117 series, a double-barreled bourbon that stayed in the second barrel for an unusually long time. Old Forester took its 1910 expression and aged it in a second barrel for 24 additional months. It is aptly named Old Forester Extra Extra Old. It is bottled at 93 proof and will be available at select Kentucky retailers. Guests visiting the distillery on paid experiences now through December 23rd will have an opportunity to purchase a bottle in accordance with the distillery's special release policy. But enough of news and notes. Up next is our flight night with Log Still Distillery and Wally Dant. It's a great chat with some great pours, and it's a perfect way to close out 2022. Enjoy.
Remember to check out Hops and Spirits on social media at Hop Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find Hops and Spirits on YouTube and at hopspirits.com.
Joining us here for our flight night, it's also the last episode of 2022, so I guess I should wish everyone a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas as we welcome in our full lineup. We have two of the three from the original flight crew and a guest making an appearance who you've seen quite a bit. So first up, depending on where they're at on my screen, I welcome in Ariella, better known as A, and you can find her on Instagram at Influensky. A, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Jonathan. Thank you. Glad to be back here again, tasting some bourbon.
It's always a good time when we're tasting some bourbon. We've also got back, he's better known as maybe the VA Bourbon Hunter on Instagram, host of Brown Water Banter as well. Please welcome back Damon, or D.
Hey, what's up, guys? Once again, we're here. Let's drink some bourbon.
And it's always a good time when we're drinking bourbon. And I guess I could call you B, because he's one half of the neat mixed reviews here on Hops and Spirits. You know, if we're going to go with A, D, maybe you're B. Welcome in, Brandon Evans.
What's up, everybody?
And our guest, he's the president and distiller of Log Still Distillery, and he has a long family tradition and heritage in this game. Welcome in, Wally Dant.
Hey, guys. How are you?
We're good. Well, thanks for sharing some drinks with us and some pours.
Well, happy to be invited to this and hopefully hear what you have to say about our stuff.
Well, we're excited to try it. And then, like we always do, we'll just hop right into it. The first one up, if you're watching, they have a couple different brands there at Log Still Distillery. This is their Rattle and Snap Tennessee straight whiskey. I love the thing there, make your own luck. So what do we have here with this Rattle and Snap?
So what you have there is a contracted whiskey of ours, Tennessee whiskey of ours. I've known these guys, oh my goodness, probably 6 or 7 years now. And it's not George Dickel. So a lot of folks, as you probably are aware, being experts as you are, a lot of the stuff coming out of Tennessee, when it's not labeled, when it's Tennessee whiskey, a lot of times it's, it's George Dickel stuff, which again, they make great product down there at Cascade Hollow, and congrats to them. But this is not. So these guys I've known for quite some time, and so when I was in Tennessee for 22 some odd years, and really wanted to have a nice Tennessee expression, and I think we got it here.
I like it. When I first opened it up, it had a very nice a nose, very inviting.
So what's sitting in your glass right now is about 4.5-year-old product.
High rye.
High rye. No, not a high rye. Sorry. So no, it is rye, but not what I consider to be a high rye.
Okay.
Although you smell that you can smell that spice in there, I think, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and also the back palate, the taste. That's why I asked if it was a high rye. The back palate kind of tastes like a high rye.
Oh yeah. You can definitely taste it coming through.
Yeah, it's actually it's a different kind of rye than I'm used to for a pour. To me, it seems like it kind of goes up. I think maybe because of the spice level, where like it kind of starts off kind of mellow and sweet, and then kind of like that kind of spice or whatever that is in the back kind of cranks up a little bit, lets it linger in the back a little bit more, and it drinks definitely with 97 proof, so it definitely drinks above its proof a little bit, 94 proof. Yeah.
Yep. You can taste that. I think what we were trying to go for, right, is that 94 proof. We just didn't feel like we needed to go much higher, because you can taste the alcohol in it, and I just didn't want it to overwhelm the palate. And so we were kind of proofing it out. We just felt it was pretty good around that proof level, and at the other end of the day, it's kind of a play on our DSP number, which is 47. Right.
Oh,
So
okay.
so there you go. You got 47% alcohol and 94 proof. So this kind of worked out pretty nicely.
I gotta ask where Rattle and Snap came from?
So it is a pre-Civil War game of chance, and so they took dried out beans, right, in your hand, rattle them around, and then snap your wrist, right? And I would imagine it was against a wall or in a little box or wooden box or something like that. So it's some sort of game of craps. We don't exactly know how the game was played. We just know it was a game, and it was pre-Civil War game of chance. There was a home in or some land in Tennessee that pre-Tennessee being a state, which was it was territory of North Carolina. So the governor of North Carolina lost that land in a game called Rattle and Snap. And so when we were looking for a name for our Tennessee whiskey, and really wanted to play up around this whole make your luck theme, it just really kind of made a lot of sense for us.
I like that. That's a
That's a
clever
good
name.
story. Yeah, that's a good one.
Great story. Yeah.
And you can have a lot,
Tennessee
we think
whiskey.
from a marketing perspective, we can have a lot of fun with that, make your own luck. And so we're kind of looking forward to maybe even coming out with our own Rattle and Snap game here shortly. So
Nice.
I like it. What's everyone thinking of it, of the actual pour of Rattle and Snap, as I
Very
apparently spill it
sweet.
on my phone?
It's sweet for me. Like a lot of honey, some oak, but it's pretty smooth. We're gonna be talking about, it's pretty smooth, very easy to drink, I would say.
Yeah.
Extremely easy to drink. I think, Wally, you said like, oh, this is not George Dickel. When I smell, it's like, yeah, this is not George Dickel whatsoever. Because I was like, yeah, you don't smell that. But yeah, this is a pretty good, like easy to drink, like really easy to drink. Very.
yeah, this is what we call our everyday expression of our Tennessee whiskey. So we do have like an 8-year-old as well, same mash bill, same distillers, and
Oh, wow.
and that one, and you'll actually find that on some shelves here in Kentucky. Well, actually, pretty much everywhere we're selling right now. but it's a limited. So I had about 50 barrels of that, and you can really, there's a tremendous amount of difference between that one and this one, just from an age perspective. And they had some smaller barrels in there, like 30-gallon barrels, and so you're really going to see that oak influence really come through in some of
They were 8-year, 30-gallon barrel.
Not all of them. There were like a handful of them that were,
Wow.
30-gallon barrels. And so
Sheesh.
when you taste that one, you can really see where that oak influence really kind of came into prominence.
Now I gotta ask you. You went into this business with, I believe, your cousins, Lynn and Charles. How did you guys decide on getting back into the family business?
Well, the family had been out for, since my grandfather retired back in '74, and really the last Dant that was in the business worked at Barton's, and he retired back in the, I guess, kind of mid '90s. And for each one of us, we were off doing different things, right? And as a family, we all grew up around it all, and grew up around the history of whether it was my grandfather, my great grandfather that was in the business directly, or my great great or great great great. All of those, that was something that we were just all knew about, right? And so for us, I got back into. I was a healthcare guy out of Nashville, right? So that's what I did for a living. And on the side, back in the early 2000s, I opened up a retail store, wine and spirits retail store in Tennessee. Did it with a couple friends. We did it because we liked to have fun and thought, hey, wouldn't this be something if we had a retail store, right? Long and short of it was, it's a lot harder to own a singular retail store in the state of Tennessee. And where we were located was just kind of an odd location. So it's all about location. And so we got out of that in 2011. And if you know anything about the state of Tennessee, it's a franchise state for distribution, right? So once you sign a brand over to a distributor, that distributor basically kind of owns you for the rest of your life. And so we said, okay, well, if we sell the retail store, then why don't we get in the distribution business, right? So we got into the distribution business, again, not knowing our ass from a hole in the ground, and got into that, and had that business for another 7 or 8 years before I sold that in 2020. But in that process, we represented Rabbit Hole in the state of Tennessee. So my company did, and so getting to know Cave and what he was doing, and then getting to know the other suppliers that we had. So we had a number of them, whether 80 Laws, I don't know if you guys have ever had that or not, but out of Colorado, 6 and 20 out of South Carolina. And so we represented a number of different spirit brands, and just kind of getting to know those guys and kind of what they were doing. And Cave looking at me one day and saying, hey, Wally, you've got a story here that's half of the battle with bourbon, to have a real authentic story. And he goes, why don't you do this yourself? So we kind of planted that seed back into probably 2017 sort of time frame. And with the success of my healthcare companies, here we are.
I like that. You name it Log Still Distillery. How did you come up with that name?
So there were a few families that were known for what they called back in that early 1830s, 40s time frame for stilling on the log, right? So they could not afford a copper still, right? And so the Dant family and the Wathen family in particular were really known for kind of stilling on the log. So they took hollowed out logs because they couldn't afford a copper still, which mostly was coming out of Pittsburgh at that time, and began, stilling moonshine basically on the log, and then putting it in barrels. And so they began to have this product that was fairly consistent, and through that success, he was eventually able to, kind of start the business with get a copper still and build his own proper distillery. But the families, the Wathen family, the Dant family, we're kind of known originally for that. And so when I was looking for a name for our distillery, I harkened back to that time and said that was kind of appropriate for us to call our new distillery Log Still.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I was also wondering what made you do a Tennessee and a Kentucky whiskey. I don't even know if I've ever seen that.
There's not a whole lot. Well, look at Brown Forman; they can do it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So I started my career at Brown Forman. So no, when I really put the company together along with Lynn and Charles, I had some of those, what is now our 8-year-old Tennessee whiskey in stock, and we needed to do something with it, quite frankly. But at the end of it all, I really, I've been in Tennessee for 22 years, longest place I've ever lived in my entire career. I've moved around, even when I was a kid, every 3 years or something like that. And my dad bled around. He worked for UPS, and so in my career I moved around. And so having stayed in Tennessee that long, and really understanding what Tennessee whiskey was that state, I just thought, hey, that'd be pretty cool. We can have 2 separate brands, one a Tennessee brand, another Kentucky brand, and be able to offer something that's a little more unique than maybe what people have tasted before on the Tennessee whiskey side, and and marry that up with our Kentucky bourbon. And while we all kind of snub our nose, whether you're in Tennessee or in Kentucky, about each other's bourbons and or whiskeys, generally speaking, when you go out to the rest of the United States, they don't give a shit. They just want to taste something good, right? So,
yeah,
that's true.
True story.
That's very fair. And for those that are wondering, they're like, I know this name, this Dant name. Can you talk a little bit about that family legacy?
Yeah, our family's been in the business for nearly almost 200 years now, and one of the original pioneers, I guess, around bourbon whiskey in the state of Kentucky, certainly. And just for all of those that are listening that may care or may not care, I always have to do this now. Log Still Distillery neither owns nor has any affiliation with the J.W. Dant Distilled Spirits brand. Right. So we'll just get that out and get it over with. All that being said, our family's been at it that long. Whether it was my great grandfather that owned the distillery that we're in today. So he had it from post-prohibition through about 1940. And then, my grandfather working here, he retired in 1974. My dad was born and raised on property. Every single one of those Dant sons in particular, were all basically in the business. So a number of them built their own brands and built their own companies. So for instance, Yellowstone, which is now owned by Luxro, right? Yep. Steve Beam and Limestone Branch. That Yellowstone was founded by Joseph Bernard Dant, right? And so he built a distillery. He built a distillery here on our property. So we have about 350 acres here. And so there were at one point in time, pre-prohibition, 3 different distilleries within this really 10-acre site. So
that's interesting. Wow.
That's wild how far history can date back. And I love it too. And it's interesting too that you picked, the Tennessee whiskey for us to try first, because I've continued to sip on it, and I feel like it's just gotten smoother and smoother as I've gone.
Yep. Yeah, it really is. It's a great expression, I think, of what we were really kind of looking for, which was, and I think you said it earlier about how smooth it was. We really wanted something that was kind of really easy across that palate, and that was, again, different for folks to taste from a Tennessee whiskey profile perspective. And,
very different.
Really very approachable. And from a price point perspective, I think it's sitting at maybe retail $37 or somewhere in that range. So we wanted something that was affordable.
And I do like the age statement. And now I feel like I need to try to look for the 8-year-old
So I think we've got. I'll show
Because
you
it sounds interesting.
somewhere back. I've got it. Here's a second. I'll get it. So you can see, kind of, this is our 8-year-old label, right? So you've got that little.
Okay, I've seen that.
Yeah, so, kind of stands out on the shelf too.
Yeah, it's like a book.
Yeah, that's right. You can bookend it, right?
It'll go perfect in everyone's collection, right?
It'll look good on my shelves.
That's right.
Now, where can they find the Tennessee the Rattle and Snap? I'm guessing Kentucky. Go Log Still, you can get it. Where else can you find it?
Well, and I think for almost all practical purposes, I mean, here in Kentucky, we're at generally every single liquor barn outlet has both sets. They've got the Monk's Road. They've got the Rattle and Snap. Kroger, I think, carries it now as well. Particularly, I know they've got the 4-year-old, and then any retailer like Party Source up in
Newport.
Newport, and they carry it up there too. So most outlets have it now. We just came out with our Tennessee whiskeys the end of September. The weeded, the small batch that you're tasting, which is a weeded mash bill, that came out first of October.
Oh, that's why.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Okay. I was like, wow, it's the I think the Tennessee being it weeded, I think kind of threw me off to begin with.
No, not the Tennessee.
When you said we.
Yeah, so this one,
monks.
right? So this one, the Monk's Road.
Oh,
that one is the weeded mash bill.
Okay,
so Tennessee is not weeded.
Nope.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to throw anybody off. No, it's rye.
How much rye?
Less than 20 and more than 10. How's that?
17.
In this range somewhere
It's in that range somewhere.
I like
Len does not want me to give away our mash bill, so I try.
All right. I don't want you to get you in trouble. Don't want you.
Yeah, that's right. She would kick my ass. So
now you do have another one that is weeded, and that is the Monk's Road, correct?
That's correct. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So can you talk a little bit about what we're going to taste next for our second pour?
Yeah. So this is again a 4-year-old, little over 4 years old. We contract distilled this one. So for those of you that haven't been to the distillery yet, literally we just got the big still running in July. So we have been contract distilling this one for 4+ years here in Kentucky. And so they've been making it for us for that long. And we just thought we're not putting out anything really kind of less than 4 years old. So just so you guys know, we just won't put out early bourbon. We just don't want to do that. And so this we felt was kind of ready. And so this is something that you're tasting tonight. Again, it's at 94 proof. So we wanted to come in with that weeded mash bill a little less than what we did with our high rye mash bill that we came out with first. There's an expectation, I think, of a little softer character on the weeded bourbons, generally speaking. And this one again sits from a retail perspective at around anywhere from $42 to $44 or $45, somewhere in that range. And so we went again. It was one of an approachable Kentucky bourbon. I usually get I get some nuttiness off of this one.
Not to jump ahead. Sorry, Jonathan. I was just wondering, with you contracting both of these, but specifically the Kentucky one. So, do you when your juice is ready, is it going to be the same label? Like, it's still going to be Monk's Road? Would it be your distillate?
Yeah, so it'll be the same. It'll be the same label. We're using the same mash bills, same yeast. The only difference that you would potentially taste in our make that we're making today versus what we contract distilled is the water source. So on our property, we have a 12-acre spring-fed lake. And that was the old distillery used that for their distillate. And so we wanted to kind of replicate what was done at the old distillery. So we went through, put in a water treatment facility where we sand filter, we charcoal filter that lake water. We don't RO, for those of you that are in the know, a lot of water these days is reverse osmosis, right? So it kills everything, which includes minerality, right? And so we wanted to make sure that we kept that limestone profile in our distillate. And so, so we use that lake water for our distillate. So there would be slight differences potentially because of the water source. But other than that, you're same mash bill, same process, same everything.
Got it. Yeah, I was just wondering, just because this one is a wheated mash bill, and it's once again not super typical for someone to come out with a wheated mash bill. I guess first before like a Kentucky bourbon or something, or not a Kentucky, but what I mean, mostly corn, no wheat mash bill. So I found that pretty interesting. So I mean, and I always say I have a sweet tooth, so most wheated stuff I love anyway. So and I think this one's pretty smooth. It also has like a little bit more of a mouthfeel than the Tennessee. Also, like it overwhelming. It coats the entire inside of your mouth, and it sits for a little while. So I like that.
Yeah. So we came out with our first real bourbon was a source bourbon, right? So it's now sitting at 7 years old. It's a single barrel, 100 proof, high rye bourbon, and so when we opened the distillery, our tasting room, I guess almost a year and a half ago now, a little over a year and a half ago, I had to sell bourbon, right? So I wasn't going to open a bourbon distillery without bourbon. So we went out and about 4 years ago purchased some Kentucky-made high rye bourbon, and so it was when we released it. It was over 6 years old, and now today, almost all of my barrels have now turned 7 or 8 years old on those. So, but this one wasn't our own make, right? This one is, but the original one was a source product. And so, any of our source product, we've that on that label, you will see 5th District Series, and that's meant to indicate to those that are in the know that that's a source product from us, right? So it's a way to distinguish it from our own make, our own distillate.
And that 5th district's what, the old taxing district? Is that right?
It's the old taxing district in Central Kentucky. That's right. So it kind of ran up through Central Kentucky up to Louisville. And so we kind of named every single one of our, so we're going to have a second expression of that one come out in June. And it'll be named after an old distillery that kind of went defunct. The first one is Cold Spring Distillery, which was one of the original J.B. Dant distilleries that was here in Gethsemane. We actually, that's that Cold Spring, which is the name of it. We actually use the spring water to proof our bourbon today from barrel cooking perspective.
Wow,
interesting. So B, Brandon, what are y'all getting on this one?
I think it's very, very smooth. I'm like you, Wally. I get the nuttiness from off the nose. I actually get a lot of the nuttiness on the back end for myself. For me, I think it's very, very smooth. I'm a fan of it. I like it a lot.
And from my side, I get a lot of pepper and floral. It's like a green kind of floral, like green grass, but also pepper, huge pepper on the aroma, on the nose. And the palate, I think Dee mentioned it's a little bit more heavier, like there's like a cream to it, like that kind of coats your mouth. And it has a nice lingering spice that goes like at the end. then even though it's like, what is it, 94 proof? It's like, I think it says it's like like sitting on the porch kind of thing. But this is actually one of the more peppery weeded bourbon that I've had, I think, recently.
Yeah, you had a point about that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you said that about the grass, the grassy part, because I kind of picked up that myself, but I didn't want to be weird and say that, because it's like, you know, that's gotta be, I don't want that to be a bad thing, because it's definitely not, but you know what I mean?
But only green grass.
Yeah.
Green grass.
Yeah, alfalfa hay. Yeah.
That's right. They're coming right off of the wheat. That grass is still in there. So
I like that. Now, I got to ask, I mean, I know you kind of touched on this, that you did the Tennessee whiskey because that's kind of where you're from. You contract distill down there. You got the Kentucky bourbon the Kentucky whiskey coming along. Why go with these two brands and maybe not something that says Log Still?
well, I guess there's a number of reasons just from a marketing perspective. And let's just say I flopped flat on my face and you guys didn't like any of the shit that I had, right? Then all of a sudden my name brand bourbon, right, is now tainted because he's just come out with something that's too green, too young, too something. And so from a pure marketing perspective, you can cut off a finger, right, and be okay. But if you got the heart of your company named Log Still and you got a first brand that comes out and everybody goes, that's just not us, right? So part of it was that reason, and really from a house of brands perspective, you can add more along the way, and we just thought, let's just make sure the distillery. Now, if any of you have collected any of the Bardstown bourbon collection that's out there, right? Yep, there you go. So that I think that new run for that, the second year run, is going to come up here in February or March, I believe. But it does have, our little label on it says Log Still Distillery on it. So.
Okay.
Interesting. Now, I know your ultimate goal there, though, is to produce about 50,000 barrels. Is that kind of the ultimate goal? A year?
Yeah. So our still, we got a 24-inch column still. So it produces anywhere from 22 to 24,000 barrels a year. And quite frankly, as we're sitting here and we're going, and you guys know the bourbon boom that's going on right now all over the place and how much investment's being done, we built it too small. So I wish we would have built it bigger. So we'll probably expand into the future. We'll be one of those companies that announce an expansion. But we're happy with our production. There's just a lot of opportunity out there right now, and there's a lot of people that are interested in what we're doing.
Well, your new expansion has to have somewhere good to eat. That's the new thing in Kentucky. You have to have a good place to eat.
So if you haven't been to the campus yet, we have underway a visitor center restaurant that is under construction. We do have an amphitheater. So we've got a 2,300 square seat amphitheater. Just announced today, I think Martina McBride coming, I think in June of next year, and Lady A, and we've got some other acts that'll be coming out as well. John Michael Montgomery's going to open the season for us, and so it's a unique venue from a distillery perspective. We've got an event and conference center that's 20-some-odd thousand square feet, biggest in Nelson County, and quite frankly the surrounding counties as well. And we've got 5 B&Bs on campus. We've got a train station. We've got an overnight train car.
All right, you're way ahead of me.
What?
My bad. I'm sorry.
Wow, that's a destination.
Yeah. I was gonna say Dant Crossing has a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah. We've got about 350 acres out here to play with, and And the reason we do that, and you guys have been on distillery tours before, right? I mean, I know every one of you have, and while they are fun and they're unique, but if you do it on some sort of repetitive basis, then at some point in time you go, well, I've dipped my finger in the mash tanks already, and so what else is there? And so we said, let's create that at the very beginning, so that we create a memory, a great memory for somebody to come back to. And so by virtue of having the amphitheater out here with shows every Friday during season, or having an event conference center where you get married in, or you have a class reunion in, or you have a corporate conference that comes down here, you're creating these memories for folks that go, hey, I didn't get to do this, but I'd like to go back and get on that train and stay overnight on their overnight sleeping car, right? So if you can do those things, then you're really creating what we consider to be a destination place. So Dee, for instance, we picked up the executive chef from Churchill Downs, Dave Danielson, and he was at Churchill Downs for 12 years, and
Oh, wow.
he's out with us, and so he's creating great culinary experiences to match up with our bourbons, our whiskeys, and our gins, and really creating something that's, again, we think somewhat unique to the bourbon trail, cocktail trail that we're on.
CD, you got a little ahead of yourself.
Sorry for yeah, definitely, my bad.
It's okay.
Now I gotta ask, is it true that there was a few horse trades, a couple other things to get that full 350 acres? Because I know at one time you kind of had to get a couple parcels to kind of tie it all together, right?
Yeah, there were some horse trading that was going on here. But the great thing I think really about this community, this is a community that my parents grew up in, that our family is known for over 200 years here in this part of Nelson County and Marion County. And so they really embraced us out here. And so while there might have been a little horse trading, I think everybody was really kind of looking for us and really thinking, hey, this is a great opportunity to grow the community, have a place for people to come and see this part of Kentucky that they hadn't seen in quite some time, and really maybe come back to their roots and create great jobs for everybody here. So what we say in our kind of our motto is God, family, community, and bourbon. And if you do the first three things right, then your bourbon hopefully will follow suit.
I've got a little
Great.
family that decided to show up here at the last second.
I see. So she can be the taste tester here. There you go.
Yeah. We'll wait a little bit on her before she gets into that.
If she's teething, I always use bourbon on my kids.
Yeah.
I've heard that. I've heard that. I like that. I like that. Now, I had a question and it's completely gone after she ended up in my lap. So anyone else have questions that they'd like to ask Wally while I'm maybe thinking what I was going to ask?
Well, I guess I'll ask, do you have, any plans of, I guess my question is what's the next step for you guys? Is it kind of building your distillate up and replacing the contracted monks and Rattle and Snap with your own? Well, I guess you can't really do that with Rattle and Snap.
Yeah, no, I can't. It's Tennessee whiskey's got to be manufactured in Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
So that'll continue to go on down there. Those guys are great to work with, and just really good folks. For the other stuff, all of that's being switched over to us in 2023, and so we'll do our wheated bourbon run. We will actually do our rye whiskey run as well, plus our high rye bourbon, which we've been doing since July. So we'll continue to lay those down. We're hopefully getting ready to start construction on our second rick house out here. So it's exciting. Pretty exciting.
Oh, wow. Wow. Second rick house. So I have another kind of follow-up questions on that. So in terms of kind of profile of Log Still Distillery, are you guys planning on more of an experimental kind of barrels or blends, or is it mainly going to be, wheated, single barrels, different age statements, this Tennessee whiskey? But what are your plans in terms of or is there any plan on kind of thinking of, more of an experimental blends?
So Lynn, the way she constructed the distillery part, we've got some smaller fermenting tanks over there that she'll use for those experimentations that she wants to do. So I think you're going to see us do different things. We have, like, my great grandfather's old mash bill. We will run that, right? Guaranteed, we will run that. And so you'll see us come out with a special, bourbon that will be, kind of in his honor. And so I think you'll see us do that. That's what Lynn wants to do. She's going to have a lot of fun with it. We've got a gin still here, and we'll do the same thing around that.
That would be fun. I remember, I think Steve Beam was on this podcast, and we did talk about kind of using some of his family recipes as well, like the minor case. I'm just looking at it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward to those, family, like heritage.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve and I are related on his mother's side. So, yeah, his, in fact, minor case was married on our property.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. Now I'm like looking at the bottle, and now I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yep. Yeah, there you go.
I love a good history lesson. Now I finally remembered my question. When you say Nelson County, I couldn't find the town that you guys list on a map. So how far out there are you?
So we're between New Haven and New Hope, right off of State Highway 52. So Gethsemane is the name of what we put on our label, and so if you were to look at old bottles that came out of the distillery that was here, it always listed Gethsemane, like DSP number 47, Gethsemane, Kentucky. And while we lost our post office, which is what my grandmother ran here at the train depot and the post office were one and the two. While we lost that zip code, back in the late 60s, a lot of folks still call this Gethsemane, Kentucky. And so when we opened up the distillery again on the same ground, we wanted to, give a nod back to the historical nature of our property here.
Is that the same as the distilling number as well?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So it's DSP number 47, which, there's not a whole lot that are smaller than our numbers from a DSP perspective, but because we had the family name, my great grandfather owned the property, and we were on our old distilling site, the government, after some prodding, allowed us to have our own.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I got to ask, I mean, from a business perspective, waiting until the 4-year mark on a lot of the products, that's a wee bit risky because you got to, obviously that's time that you and money you've invested in there. I mean, was there ever a thought of going earlier than that, or was it always going to be 4-year?
No, I've tasted a lot of young stuff, right? And I just didn't want to come out with a product that people would go, it shows promise, but it's not there yet. So I didn't want to do that.
And as we wrap up, any other questions here from the illustrious panel? Brandon, you've been a little quiet up there in that corner of my screen.
I'm good. I'm enjoying both of these pours. Have a good time.
DA, any other questions?
I don't have any, but I will say, the history lesson here is pretty insane, and it's cool. I think what you're doing is really cool, especially in this day and age where so many people are opening up new distilleries and sourcing from one Indiana place, and then making a name there, and trying to. So the route that you're going, I think is like super interesting, and I definitely can't wait to see what happens with you guys in the next couple of years, honestly.
Well, thanks. We're pretty excited about our future here, and anytime you guys want to come on down and see us.
Gethsemane,
Yes,
Kentucky.
definitely.
Okay.
Sure.
Yosemite, Kentucky, from Atlanta, Georgia. Okay.
It's an easy ride. Easy.
You'll
vibe.
have
Yeah.
quite the experience on Dant Crossing. You can take in a concert, stay at an Airbnb, get some bourbon, have all sorts of fun things, right?
Yeah, we can stay there for a month.
You could stay here.
Yeah, for real.
We'll actually put you work in a distillery if you want. So there you
Oh,
go.
perfect. Even
There you
better.
go. Yeah, better. I work from home, so
There you go. Well, Wally, I appreciate you sharing some pours with us. Brandon, DA, thanks for joining me, and cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, everybody.
Yep,
Hey, thank
cheers.
you.
Thank you.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.